All right, so this week's Tuesday tip. I wanted to talk to you about selling a property as is. So many of my clients come to me and say, I really just want to sell the house as is. The problem is that I've always said there's no such thing as is. I mean, there is such a thing, but the reality is that the impact that selling as is going to have on you is going to be far worse than making improvements. And I try to explain this to folks because what it boils down to is if you're selling as is, first of all, you're alienating an entire population of people. There are folks out there that don't want to do much work, right? Oftentimes those clients end up buying something that needs work, sometimes a lot of work anyway. But the reality is that they're going to purposefully steer themselves away from properties that say as is. They're not going to call their agent and say, oh, I want to go see this one if it says strictly as is in the listing description. What's ironic about that is I've seen properties that have stated strictly as is, and then when I've gone there, they've needed paint. That's it. And meanwhile, this whole population of people has not been out to see the property. So you hurt yourself just by putting that language in there. But the next thing is that, all right, let's say that it does need more major improvement. Well, the challenge here is that when you don't find out what it's going to cost or get the work done ahead of time, you're leaving it up to the buyer to determine what that item costs. Let's say that a kitchen renovation needs to be done, right? Well, I can renovate a kitchen for $12,000 to $15,000. In the eyes of a buyer, if they have gone out and gotten estimates before from somebody else or they've heard about their friends, contractors might charge $60,000 for a kitchen. So the reality is rather than doing the work with me and spending $15,000 and bringing it up, now you have a buyer walking through weighing a $60,000 renovation against your property, which the reality is that's not really real. Well, it could be depending on who they hire, but ultimately that's what's affecting your sales price. So I typically advise against not listing properties as is or selling properties as is. There comes a time and place for it. Look, I've bought properties strictly as is. I've bought properties with, no inspection at all whatsoever, strictly as is. But the reality is I'm also seeing that there's so much margin in between that I'm not going to lose. Regardless of what goes wrong, even if everything goes wrong, I won't lose money. So the question becomes, if you're that seller, how much did you leave on the table?